let's talk about NBA championship teams. We've done a lot of ranking of modern NBA champions, things of that sort. What I want to do today is, they're all great, but let's talk about their perception amongst fans. I want to name some NBA champions, and you tell me if they're overrated, underrated, or perfectly rated. So this is really about how you feel people perceive these champions years after the fact.
Okay.
Because, winning a championship in the moment, we're always going to be like, they're on top of the world. How could they not stay there? Surely they'll be a dynasty and so forth. You get a few years removed. You see the realities of team building. Things change over time. The game changes. We see teams differently. Let's talk about how teams are perceived.
Let's talk about it.
Let's do it.
First off, quintessential debate, 2020 Lakers. This is a hard one because the bubble makes people either write it off and say, oh, it's fake basketball, or you want to defend it because that's nonsense.
I low-key feel like they're underrated in my mind, simply because of the talk and the conversation about the bubble. But if you look at the actual team and how they were constructed, being defensive-oriented and having wings on guard play on guard play and wings on wings, you forget Rondo was out here shooting like 38% from the three-point line, doing what he does on defense, being playoff Rondo. Then there's the Alex Caruso's of the world. KCP was there. There's another Danny Green was there. It's deep, bro.
People didn't realize at the time that Alex Caruso is one of the best guard defenders of the modern NBA. And now we know that. And he was just there coming off the bench. Yeah. This team was deep. It was physical. It was big. It doesn't get talked about a lot. LeBron was still prime LeBron. This is still just as good as 2018 LeBron. I'm going to say underrated.
They were, before the bubble, they were at the top of the West, right? And the like couple days before the bubble hit, they beat the Bucks, who were at the top of the East. Then the very next game went and they played the Clippers, and everyone was like, "Oh my God, the Clippers are here! They're gonna win the title." Beat the Clippers at the same time. They were at the top of the West, and I think that for a lot of teams that are more defense oriented rather than offense, you look at them and you think that they are not as good as what they were when at their peaks. Like having great defense, having all-time great defense is special and it's very, very hard. And so I think because of that, they are underrated.
Exactly. They caught that window where they had the supporting cast. They had prime LeBron James, who hadn't fallen off age-wise compared to still great, but the age caught up to him a little bit. And you had all the injury issues of Anthony Davis, who was moving like a gazelle.
You had jump shooter Anthony Davis.
Yeah. And even if you want to say that part is because of the bubble, even before the early in the season, he was still dominant, still fantastic. To me, surprise, surprise, I think the first championship team I saw in my life as a series fan is underrated.
Is that the Nazis? Not the Nazis. Is that
Kostas?
Kostas? Damn, that's I forget.
He was there because they wanted to recruit Giannis in free agency, so they kept him on the roster. And then as soon as Giannis signed his extension, Kostas was gone. Next up, the 2023 Nuggets. This is an interesting one because at the time, we thought they were amazing. How could you not? Now we look back, that year, the NBA was kind of in flux. One of the weaker playoff brackets.
Yeah. They faced the Miami Heat in this finals too, which is...
Yeah, they ran through a West that wasn't nearly as good as it is today.
I'm still inclined to say underrated though, because I think one, depending on who people play in the finals, that kind of taints people's
perception.
View of like the entire team and the entire run. But also, I've seen people say like that the Nuggets have never like beaten like a 50-win team in the playoffs and stuff like that. When that 5-man unit of Jamal, KCP, Michael Porter Jr., Aaron Gordon, Jokic, that is amazing and elite, and especially when you still have like MVP caliber coming into peak of his powers, Jokic.
And they had a bench. They had a bench still.
It's great.
Yeah, the Bruce Browns of the world was so important and valuable. Yeah.
This is a great team. There is credence to the fact that the path there was easier than some other years, and the reality is they took advantage of the perfect year where their window was like completely optimized because there's so many teams that were in flux, like I said, and they just got it done, which shout out to them. It's not easy to get it done, even if that's the case. But perfectly rated, probably, I think.
This is one of the few probably perfectly rated.
Yeah, I'm gonna try not to use that crutch of perfectly rated, but this might be the one.
Yeah.
It's nuanced.
I'm still going underrated.
Okay, that's fair. Okay. It's not crazy. The 2015 Warriors. To me, this is quintessential underrated because they get overshadowed so much by the better versions of them that came and dominated the rest of the decade that people kind of view this team as like, oh, they're a baby version of the 2016. They must be an easy lick. This team won over 60 games. This team was dominant. This team won with teamwork, with spread out attack.
Yeah.
This is an amazing
true
team.
Strength strength by numbers right here. This team defines that entire mantra that they have.
Yeah. And people have the crutch of like, oh, if Kyrie didn't get hurt, Kevin Love didn't get hurt, they would have lost. Maybe. Or maybe they would have won still because they were fucking fantastic.
They don't appreciate the Leandro Barbosas of the world or the Mo Spates of the world, bro.
Mo buckets?
Abundance of them.
Yeah.
Come on.
So like this team, to me, this team is undeniably underrated just because they're overshadowed by their sustained excellence after this.
Yes.
Which is rare because, like, you know, it's understandable they're underrated because you almost like never see this in history where a team is this good and then gets that much better to where the previous version looks like unimpressive.
And, you know, and also because it was Steph's first MVP and the second MVP, like you said, was so much better and everything that they did afterwards was better than what they did. Yeah.
And the psychological effect of playing LeBron James and like Steph was still coming into form of how we were going to perceive him as a legend. A lot of narrative stuff working against them in their place in history. The 2012 Miami Heat.
Dang, it's a lot of underrated champions, man.
I don't know how you can say this one's underrated.
No, I'm just saying out of the last three.
Yeah.
Because I've been going underrated.
I don't feel like the Heat are underrated by at all. I don't know if I want to say overrated, but I lean overrated over under. Boy, that was a crazy sentence. I think overrated is an easier argument than I do underrated.
Yeah.
I'm not going to go overrated with them. This is going to be the first one that I use perfectly rated on.
Okay. This is the year they beat the OKC Thunder, their first championship.
Yeah, because this was also a weird year because this was the lockout year.
Yeah, true.
And so it's kind of different. But actually, no, I am going to go underrated because
Really?
I am.
Okay.
Because if you go back and you look, there's a lot of revisionist history. If you go back and you look at what people were saying going into the series, a lot of people thought that the Thunder were going to win the series. Like it wasn't a crazy unpopular opinion.
That was probably about 2011 stink, though, wasn't it? That was probably about people don't want to trust LeBron.
It may be that, but it also might be the fact that like KD is, you know, rising. KD was averaging like 30 in every playoff game. Russell Westbrook was coming in. They still had James Harden on the team. So I think that now it probably is a little bit underrated. And seen some stuff about people talking about Chris Bosh wasn't
Rich Paul.
Oh, that's nasty.
wasn't all that.
Yeah, that's nasty.
I understood his point, but yeah, neither here nor there.
That was nasty.
I'm gonna pull out again. This is gonna be the last time I pull up my perfectly rated card right here.
Yeah, I don't think that
Pretty
they're
good case.
overrated. I do think that like for the level that LeBron was at, D Wade, at least in 2012, his knees weren't completely gone in 2012, and so you still had a very, very elite Dwayne Wade. You still have Chris Bosh, who is, you know, forming into all these like different roles that they're asking him to play. I think that like you look at this team and you look at the fact that they lost in 2011 and that this 4-year run was bookended by losses, but it doesn't negate the fact that like at their peak they were.
I miss this era, man. I miss this era so much. Look at this picture; it feels so nostalgic.
It's amazing. I had that T-shirt. It was awesome.
Okay, sounds like they're perfectly rated. 2021 Bucks.
This
might be my first overrated. Yeah.
Why is it overrated? Do you feel like people like respect the shit out of them? That it's too much?
Yeah, like I look back on this team and it's like
I think the team within itself might be a little bit overrated. I don't think how it's looked at from behind is overrated.
You know, I think Giannis's performance isn't overrated, but maybe the team is.
Mm-hmm.
Like they won because he went Superman and he had enough help. But it's not like if you stack this up against other champs that came right before or right after, it's not one of the stronger ones.
Yeah, like the only team over the last few years, the only team I can say like clear cut is better, that the Milwaukee Bucks are better than, is that 2022 Golden State Warriors team. Outside of that, like this feels like a pretty weak roster in terms of championship roster, of course. Like Drew Holiday, of course, he played a very important pivotal part to this team and their success, especially their defense. But seeing how you can easily take Drew Holiday out of this whole thing and their defense is now like piss poor.
Yeah, well, okay, so I don't want to do that because then it's just like, oh yeah, like we have something built off of great players. Let's just take the great player away and then it's not as
I understand
good.
that.
But I am with you.
But how legitimate is their defense?
You still
great.
have
Giannis is amazing.
You still have Giannis. You still have Brook Lopez. I just think that Giannis had to do. They were down 2-0 in this series, and I think that people talk about the 2020, like that bubble and that championship having the asterisk. I don't think that any championship has an asterisk. If you're going to argue one does,
This would be the one.
21 would have more of an asterisk than the bubble. 21 is the year where they started early, where everybody was hurt, where it was super weird. People were going in and out of games and in and out of lineups with COVID and stuff like that. 21 is one of the weirdest chips.
The Brooklyn Nets of it all. The insanely unlucky stretch that made them not win the championship.
I'm not doing that.
They should have won the championship so easily. And like part of that, I'm sure, the injury thing is like a difficult thing to parse because how much of it is from shortened off season, how much of it is bad luck. Everybody got hurt that year, including the team that was clear-cut favorite to win the championship. And including the team out west that was the defending champ and the Lakers, who didn't make it there because they got hurt. So a lot of stuff in the air. And, you can't really fault them for that. Then you win who's in front of you. So this isn't to discredit anything, but if you have to parse, I guess you could say that it was a relatively weird year with some variance.
Yeah. So I'll go overrated for them.
Okay.
The 2001 Lakers.
Perfectly rated.
Yeah, they're heralded as a top 3 team of all time. You feel like that's very appropriate?
Yes. I think where you can get to them being underrated is when you start saying like, oh, they'd get like crushed by 2016, 2017 by the Warriors in that era. But like one, you may be right, but that's also just a product of like where the game is. And obviously like this team is built for 2001 and not built for 2016. And so you can get a little bit weird, but we always talk about greatest duo of all time, Shaq and Kobe. It's that video.
They are the bookmark, yeah.
It's that.
They're probably the most glazed team of all time, and it's completely deserved.
Yeah.
He's completely deserved. Like they're considered the GOAT team, even though they didn't win like 72 games or something like that, like some of the other ones. It's completely deserved. They'd be completely unguardable in pretty much any era. 2008 Celtics.
2 different answers. From us, from them, from their perspective, I'm going to say they're overrated. They overrate themselves.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I think the world underrates them because we're mad at them overrating themselves.
That's the best way to put it. That's the best way to put it.
Every time they touch a mic, they're the most annoying people in the world about their championship. But, at a certain point, you got to not let that cloud your judgment. They are an all-time great defense. They are an all-time talented big 3. They were fantastic for their era. They beat good teams. It's a team you need to respect despite how annoying you think Kendrick Perkins is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree. They encapsulate underrated in my mind based off of these conversations outside of basketball.
With that being said, everyone overrated. Paul Pierce, I don't want to hear it anymore.
Shout out Leon Poe, man.
1994 Rockets. I put this one here because a lot of people say they would have beat the Bulls if Jordan never retired.
It's me. I'm a lot of people.
Is that doing a lot? Is that overrating them?
No, they would have beat the Bulls in 6. Michael Jordan has never seen anything. The Bulls had never seen anybody like Hakeem Olajuwon who could actually shift the floor and shift the defense the way that Chicago would have needed to.
What was he going to hit him with?
Lateral movement.
Lateral
movement.
There you go.
They can't handle it.
Okay.
Fair enough. Listen, maybe it's one of the most underrated teams of all time. The 1996 Bulls, considered the GOAT team.
Perfectly rated.
Yeah, that's another perfectly rated thing. I said I wasn't going to pull it out again. I have to pull it out again.
Okay. It's fair. You don't think anybody's any myth, what's the word here? Mythologizing. You think it's all deserved?
You won over 70 games.
It's a lot of games.
And you won the championship.
Yep.
And you got the deal done. Yes, you got it.
Yeah.
And you have one of the 2 best players to ever play.
And the fact that a book ended a three-peat, and the fact that three-peat, it started another three-peat after bookending one before, there's sustained excellence there. It's not a one-off. You can't help but say it's deserved.
And you beat a team who won 69 games too.
Yeah.
This team is unmatched.
Except for 2017.
Yeah.
The 2014 Spurs. The beautiful game, we commonly refer to them as one of the most unstoppable offenses of all time. Do we let the beauty of it cloud our judgment and put them in places maybe we shouldn't?
They were super deep.
Or is the beauty of it underrated?
I'm actually going to say...
It could go so many ways.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how people perceive this.
I'm going to say overrated.
Okay.
Just because y'all weren't loving the Spurs like that back then. People were watching this team play basketball and were like, ho hum, it's the Spurs. And now that we're actually removed from it, and now that they beat LeBron, everyone's like, this team was so good. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Y'all were not loving this team in the moment like that. I was scared of this team in the finals. After the Spurs won in the Western Conference Finals, Tim Duncan was like, we have 4 more. We're going to get it done this time. That was the first time I had ever heard Tim Duncan be like, yeah, we're going to do it. And like talk trash. I was like, oh, dang.
Is the ho-humness, the fact that people didn't like in the moment, make them underrated then? Maybe they're better than people think because they're boring.
I feel like a lot of people
right now, people are talking about how much they love the team. I'm saying you're overrating how much you like.
So you're basically you're not even saying the team's overrated. You're saying you guys are fucking liars.
Yes, but I didn't want to use my perfectly rated card.
Okay. The team's probably perfectly rated then. Fair enough. Is there any other team you want to throw out there before we're done here that you say is overrated? Any championship team that comes to mind?
2022 Warriors.
Stop it. No, I feel like everybody hates on them and it's like, yeah, shout out Steph, but because like that team sucks.
Yeah,
it's true. I don't know. They got it done, but it was a Steph masterclass. No, team doesn't suck. No championship team sucks, but compared to some other ones,
maybe. Well, actually, no. We give the 04 Pistons their flowers.
I was going to say they maybe get a little bit too much flowers. People make it sound like they invented defense.
Well, that run though, the run that they had was crazy.
It was a great run, but people make it sound like some people that like. Sometimes you would say them versus like a modern team, and you'd be like, yeah, the modern team's going to win. It's a modern basketball. They're like, they couldn't contend with the bad boys. They'd punch them in the chest. Ben Wallace would kill Draymond Green. And I'm like, you have to relax.
What's another? Yeah, I guess all the other championship teams I feel pretty good about.
There's one team I do feel like is underrated through, we talked about this a little bit earlier, and one of the last in the Kawhi slide. I do feel like the 2019 Raptors team is genuinely it's one of my personal favorite teams of all time because of how deep and well-rounded they were.
I understand that. I can't give you underrated because that's one where it's like it was 2 asterisks that happened in the moment where like KD pops his Achilles and then Klay Thompson tears his ACL too, and so it's like, what are we supposed to do?
Yeah, well, they're playing the greatest team of all time, so
there's.
Yes, who lost their 2
variants of that.
No, I just mean
understand.
Like it's not like it's not like the 2023 Miami Heat lost their 2 best players and it was a given. Like they still would have been good enough to be most teams. The only reason they weren't good enough then before the injuries because that bar is ridiculously high to clear. Most teams are good enough there. You put 2019 Raptors on like every year after that, they probably could have been in the finals.
I think that's my leading point.
They're better than the 2021 Bucks.
They're better than the 2021 Bucks. They're better. Are they better than the 2020 Lakers? It's tough.
That'd be a crazy series.
That would be a crazy ass series. Marc Gasol, Ibaka, Pascal
80s.
Siakam.
That'd be amazing.
Defense would be great.
They might be better.